Right now to the Japan story. The newest threat there is radioactive water. It has been found seeping from the damaged nuclear plant in Fukushima, and a government official now says it could indicate a partial meltdown at the reactors. Radiation levels at the plant are now so high, repair crews can only be in there for about 15 minutes at a time. Joe Cirincione is the president of Plowshares Fund. It's a group trying to rid the world of nuclear weapons. He's also the author of Bomb Scare, the history and the future of nuclear weapons. Joe, good to see you as always. Before we get to the water, let me ask you, how many partial meltdowns do you think are going on there?
We have at least 3 in reactors 1, 2, and 3. The fuel rods have been exposed to the air for days now. Almost all the experts believe that they have at least partially melted down. So this is similar to what happened in 3 Mile Island, an incident that happened 32 years ago today. This is the anniversary of 3 Mile Island. But it is not yet in the category of a Chernobyl, where the reactor actually blew up and spewed radioactive material into the upper atmosphere. It is bad, however, and getting worse.
Talk to us about the water that is apparently leaking out.
Sure. So here's the problem. In a desperate effort to cool the fuel rods, to prevent them from fully melting down, they did something that's not in any safety book. They moved fire trucks up on the beach and they started pumping seawater into the reactors, into the reactor core. Fine. They did stabilize the situation last week. But now all that water is radioactive and it is leaking. We don't know if it's coming from the reactor itself or from the cooling system, but it is flooding the buildings, making it very difficult for workers to go in, and seeping out. Some of it appears to have seeped into the ocean where radiation levels are rising. Other is seeping out to the ground. And today we have reports that also in the soil they found cesium-137 and plutonium. These are very radioactive products that are produced in the reactor fuel rods. So that's another sign that the fuel is leaking, that the containment of these reactors is breaking down.
It was today, back in 1979, that 3 Mile Island occurred, March 28th. Talk to us in comparison to both Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island and the current very slow-moving situation going on in Japan.
Right. So 3 Mile Island was an incident where worker error, some valves were stuck, some machines broke, and there was an exposure of the fuel rods. They got it back under control within about 24 hours, but some radiation, minimal amounts, were released in the air. It started on the 28th. It was over by the 2nd. People were back in their homes after having been evacuated by April 4th. So a 5-day crisis. Fukushima is already gone on for 15, 16 days, and it involves not 1 partial meltdown, but at least 3, and there's 3 other reactors that have problems, plus spent fuel rods. So this is a huge catastrophe in Japan. The only accident that's worse is Chernobyl, where the reactor actually exploded. Yeah. We don't think the reactors are going to explode here, but that is a remote possibility. We're in a slow-motion meltdown. I expect this to worsen over this week.
Oh, my God. Well, what's the solution here as you see it?
The problems are appearing more rapidly than the Japanese are able to fix them, Greg. That's the problem. They're trying everything they can, but I think this is just too overwhelming for them. They're hoping to keep enough water on the fuel rod so they cool down over the next coming weeks. Maybe they can do that. But as this radiation leaks, as there apparently are cracks that have been spotted in some of the reactors, what the main danger is that the reactor breach occurs, spewing molten radioactive uranium into the environment, forcing the evacuation of the workers from the site. When that happens, there's nobody to run the pumps, nobody to run the controls, and you'll see other meltdowns follow. That's the worst case scenario. I hope that doesn't happen, but this is a crisis that's going to go on for some time now.
Joe Cirincione, thank you very much for being with us. Pretty sobering news.
My pleasure, Greg.